The leader of a 2023 coup, Oligui Nguema, won a landslide victory in Gabon. General Oligui Nguema will lead the country for the next 7 years. Gabon is among 7 West and Central African countries where the military has seized power in recent years. The Oligui Nguema is the army general who led that military takeover. He now says he will bring democratic changes and reforms. But can he deliver on his promises? Here is our cover report. Ever since the Bongo dynasty was toppled, transformation and change settled in. In one of Africa's smallest but resource-rich nations, Gabon. The capital, Libreville, is a testament of a country moving on. It is a shining symbol of a promise to Gabon's youth from coup mastermind turned transitional leader General Oligui Nguema, who has ruled since August 2023. With 40% of young people out of work, Oligui Nguema has offered more than 800 new vehicles to young people through a hire purchase scheme. So when he began his campaigns to be president, many Gabonese were skeptical, including his supporters and backers. But across the capital, there was no secret about who controls the country. In varied shapes, sizes and designs, billboards and campaign posters of Oligui Nguema covered the city. They dominated the airport, markets and neighborhoods, leaving very little room for the opposition.
With the current new head of state, we believe everything will go back to the way it was in the time of our fathers, our grandparents. That is to say, there will be work.
Je crois au changement cette fois-ci quand même.
I believe in change this time based on what I've already seen. And if I voted, it's because I have children. I'd like things to be done well and better now so that my children can get a job.
Pour que mes enfants aussi puissent travailler.
Nguema was running against Alain Claude Billy Banzier, former Gabonese Prime Minister under ousted President Ali Bongo Ondimba. The politician was considered the strongest potential opponent. But when it came to voting day, people of Gabon, who have been waiting for ages to exercise their civic rights, turned at the polling stations in droves. It was a marathon counting of the ballot papers, and in a short span of time, the process was done and dusted, with the teams competing for the top post, eagerly waiting for the announcement by the Ministry of Interior. And then, the minister broke the silence with this statement.
Mr. Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema has been elected with an absolute majority, receiving 575,222 votes, or 90.35% of the votes cast. Thank you.
The visibly elated coup leader, now turned president-elect, had this to say to his supporters and country people after his win.
My dear compatriots, as I told you during the election campaign, and I repeat, there is no happiness without effort. Tomorrow is a work day. We must now turn the page on the presidential election. Our country is under construction. I invite you to resume your professional activities.
And to get to work, the Gabonese proceeded. The future of the country's vast rainforests has emerged as a key issue, highlighting the delicate balance between economic development and environmental stewardship. Gabon's timber industry, which contributed to a 4% increase in industrial production last year, has taken center stage in debates. The sector accounts for roughly 17,000 jobs and remains a cornerstone of the economy, after oil, making Gabon Africa's leading wood exporter. Candidates have emphasized sustainable practices, with Nguema vowing to continue Gabon's environmental leadership role. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One. As Sudan's civil war enters its third year, the conflict between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, has displaced approximately 13 million people, according to the United Nations. Since the war erupted on April 15, 2023, it has killed tens of thousands, pushed parts of Sudan into famine, and fractured the country into territories controlled by rival factions. Here's a report.
A brutal struggle for power between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has been on since April 15, 2023. On one side is Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, on the other is Mohammed Hamdan Hemeti Dagalo. Cities have been turned into battlegrounds and millions have been forced to flee their homes. In recent weeks, the SAF has taken the capital, Khartoum, and forced the RSF to retreat. At least 11,292 attacks were recorded from April 15, 2023 to March 28, 2025. That's an average of 16 every day, according to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. It says Sudan's army was behind 50% of over 5,600 attacks. The RSF carried out 4,291. The rest of the horrors were attributed to various other groups, including the Darfur Communal Militia, Darfur Arab Militia, Sudan People's Liberation Movement, Twig Clan Militia, and others. According to ACLED, nearly 33,000 people have been reported killed across Sudan. The actual death toll is likely much higher, especially when accounting for deaths caused by indirect reasons such as the spread of disease, malnutrition, and lack of adequate healthcare. Half of the recorded deaths have occurred in Khartoum and North Darfur, which have the highest casualty rate. The UN says Sudan is facing the world's worst displacement crisis as the war continues with no end in sight. More than 13 million people have fled their homes due to the ongoing conflict.
Our estimates, supported by the figures, indicates that approximately 13 million people have been displaced by the conflict in Sudan. Inside Sudan, this number is estimated at 8.5 million internally displaced persons. This means that 1 in 3 people is an internally displaced person within Sudan today.
Of those, at least 11.3 million people have been displaced within Sudan, according to the latest figures from the International Organization for Migration. At least 3 million people have crossed international borders, placing immense strain on neighboring countries, including Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt.
In the global context, it is typically observed, and this is also true for the situation in Sudan, that about 88% of those affected by the conflict and fleeing in search of safety are women and children.
There was a slight decline in the frequency of attacks after January 2025. While violence remained concentrated in key regions, there was a brief respite from the intensity of earlier months. Nearly 3/4 of all attacks have centered around 3 main regions. Sudan's capital has been the epicenter, with 5,519 attacks, or 49% of all recorded incidents. Just south of Khartoum, Gezira, Sudan's key agricultural state, has recorded 1,485 attacks, which is 13% of total incidents. In North Darfur, the RSF has launched several attacks on displacement camps and local militias. The region has seen 1,388 attacks, 12% of the national total. The biggest threat for the country at this juncture is a famine epidemic.
2 years since the onset of the war, Sudan has now become the world's largest hunger crisis. Nearly half the population are acutely food insecure. Famine has taken hold in parts of Darfur and is spreading. We know that it is not possible to stop a famine with food alone. You need healthcare, you need water, you need sanitation. So the whole response needs to be well supported in order to be able to turn this around and stem the tide of famine.
With the conflict entering its third year, the United Nations is calling for action from all parties to take meaningful steps towards resolving the conflict. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
A treason charge and the exclusion of the main opposition is drawing attention before October polls in Tanzania. Tanzania's Electoral Commission has barred the main opposition party, Chadema, from contesting presidential and parliamentary elections due to take place later this year. The announcement was made days after Chadema leader Tundu Lissu was charged with treason, accused of inciting rebellion and attempting to stop the elections from going ahead. Here's a report from Dar es Salaam.
The mayhem and continuous brawling between the government of Samia Suluhu Hassan and various opposition parties has been an ongoing circus in Tanzania. Despite the chaos being muted, one person has emerged as the face of revolution ever since his return from exile: Tundu Lissu. Scenes like this recent disruption by police at an opposition rally in Ruvuma are common in the East African nation. The clampdown on electoral reform is intensifying.
Wanapiga mabomu.
Police officers are tear gassing us in our offices. People are now crying because of lodging tear gas canisters.
Chadema's leader Tundu Lissu was arrested and charged with treason following a rally in southern Tanzania at which he called for electoral reforms. The CCM party, which has governed Tanzania since 1977, is expected to retain power following the latest developments.
Jeshi la polisi linatoa onyo.
We give a strict warning. We will not tolerate any political party which is inciting statements of hate against the police force or the government, or showing any sign to breach the peace of this country as we are heading towards a general election.
Polisi au serikali.
Soon after his detention, the Tanzanian Election Commission moved to bar Tanzania's main opposition party from participating in this year's election. Ramadhani Kalima, Director of Elections at the Independent National Elections Commission, has said that Chadema failed to sign a code of conduct document that was due last weekend, meaning the party was disqualified from October's elections.
There
will be no second chance. Any party that hasn't signed today will not be allowed to take part in the general election or any other elections for the next 5 years.
The country is due to vote on parliamentary and presidential elections, where Lissu was expected to challenge incumbent President Samia Suluhu Hassan. When Hassan first came to power in 2021, after the death of her predecessor, John Magufuli, she was praised for reversing some of his more authoritarian tendencies. Campaigners and opposition parties have since accused Hassan's government of an intensifying crackdown on political opponents, citing arrests and abductions of opposition members. The government has denied the accusations and launched an investigation into the abductions. One of the longest reigning parties in Africa, CCM, or Chama cha Mapinduzi, has governed Tanzania for over 5 decades. Under the slogan "No reforms, no election," Lissu has argued that there was no possibility of free and fair elections without changes to how elections are run in Tanzania. Lissu said that the makeup of the Electoral Commission needed to change and should not include people directly appointed by Hassan. Authorities accuse the opposition leader of seeking to disrupt the election and incite a rebellion. Lissu has been arrested on numerous occasions and in 2017 survived an assassination attempt in which his vehicle was shot 16 times. He then went into exile, briefly returning in 2020 to run against Magufuli in that year's election. He left after the results were announced, complaining about supposed irregularities. He then returned again in 2023 following changes introduced by Samia, which her government said were aimed at allowing greater opposition freedom. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Kenya's National High School Drama Competition has been overshadowed by drama of its own after police fired tear gas to disperse a crowd that had gathered to watch a controversial play. Echoes of War is set in a fictional kingdom where the youth have lost faith in their leaders. Here's how a school play has sparked debate in the East African powerhouse.
These are students from Butere Girls High School protesting after boycotting their performance at the National Drama Festivals, demanding the release of their playwright Cleopas Malala from police custody. The students chanted outside their school buses as police officers stood watch. Camera crews filmed the standoff between security forces and students. On the night prior to staging the play Malala, who authored Echoes of War, the students were due to perform, had resisted arrest by remaining in his car as police surrounded him. Tear gas canisters were fired, illuminating the sky and filling the air with smoke. Malala, whose play criticizes the policies of Kenya's President William Ruto, said he was never formally told what the charges against him were. Kenya's Interior Ministry said that Malala had used children to further a political agenda.
I asked police officers where the charge sheet or the summons were, and they had none. Yet, I have a court order that grants me permission to stage the play. So why will they arrest me on the middle of the road at night, and they are not telling me where they are taking me?
The fictitious kingdom in Echoes of War play is ruled by a tyrannical sultan who is irked by the activism of the youth, portraying similarities to what is currently happening in Kenya, where young people have been demanding better governance. It is not clear whether the play will now be disqualified and so not get through to the finals, which are held at State House with the president in attendance. The annual high school drama competitions are hugely popular in Kenya, with students often using theatre as a tool to challenge those in power. The row has sparked public uproar, with rights group Amnesty International saying it was pointing to a worrying pattern of state-sponsored repression of free expression, press freedom, and the right to associate. Chief Justice Martha Koome said that Malala's detention contravened the court order that the play and its author be allowed to take part in the competition. Prominent opposition figure Kalonzo Musyoka condemned the police for firing tear gas near students, praising the brave girls for declining to perform.
The problem is the police officers have prevented the students from doing their rehearsal. The students have been locked inside the house. What democracy is this if students can be prevented from rehearsing a school play?
The senator, who has written dozens of other plays, was last August kicked out of the ruling United Democratic Alliance (UDA) following internal party wrangles. He has since fallen out with President William Ruto, whom he campaigned for during the 2022 general elections. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
Vultures are among the least loved animals, and African conservationists are trying to change that. Check out how they're doing that in Southern Africa in this next report.
We've managed to rehabilitate and release. Just rehab birds, not capture bred birds, just on 700 individuals, which is a large amount. And then with regards to the capture breeding side of things, we've managed to release just short on 100 individuals.
From a medical, from a veterinary, and from a financial point of view, they are extremely important in the environment. If one had to just consider if the vultures died out and we got increases in foot and mouth, for example, the red line district would have to be increased, exports of meat out of South Africa would be curtailed, the whole cold chain process would lose money, the farmers would, as well as South Africa losing forex. So they're extremely, extremely important.
And that is what's going on in Africa this week. Find us on all our social media platforms. Talk to us there. Your story matters to us. We will tell it to the world. Thank you for watching World of Africa on WION World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye for now.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
YO1 Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to YO1 Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that,